Hi there and welcome to Get Indie Gaming. As we get closer to closing out the year, we're going through and updating some of our best of the best indie gaming rundowns. In today's video, we're taking you through our top 10 indie survival games you can play right now in late 2020. Just the one caveat, we've discounted Minecraft for obvious reasons as it hasn't really been indie for ages. If your favourite within this genre isn't within this list, let us know down in the comments below and we'll be sure to take a look to see what we're missing. Up first, and in no particular order until the top 3, we have Astroneer. Now, as survival games go, well, Astroneer is very much on the gentle side of things. All you need to worry about is having enough oxygen, and since there's plenty of this about the place, that never really gets to be too much of an issue. The relative simplicity, well, in comparison to some of the games in this rundown, continues throughout, where you're able to build complex structures and machines almost from the get-go with relative ease. For us, though, and we don't tend to say this too often, the online drop-in, drop-out co-op is another high point, and so far, we've generally had nothing but positive experiences when playing this and exploring the gorgeous landscapes and in some instances creating huge bases with other random Astroneers. You can pick this up for PC via Steam and Humble, and also on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. Up next, and at number 9, and the first of 2 games from 11-bit studios to feature in this end of the year 2020 survival game rundown. First out in late 2014, this War of Mine recently received an all-new remastered version of the game, which added plenty new additional locations, plot lines and scenarios on top of the many DLCs that have come out over the years. Unlike many games within the survival genre, this War of Mine is blissfully clever in how it portrays you and your small band of civilians trying to stay alive within a besieged city. It's a relatively small group, and in so playing, you can kind of get to know your fellow survivalists, and as such, for anyone with more than a modicum of empathy, it's hard not to say, put yourself within the character's shoes as they go about having to undertake some pretty grim activities in order to keep themselves and the rest of their group alive. It's supremely atmospheric throughout. During the day you tend to issues at hand within your base, while at night you must choose who will go out looking for supplies, food and medicine throughout the city. While the game doesn't directly reference history, it's easy to conjecture where it draws its influences, particularly given the location where 11-bit studios are based. So yes, for the most part, this one's a hard play and pretty unique at what it does.
Survival is hell, even at the best of times.
Coming up next, and at number 8, if you're a fan of playing Among Us, then you'll probably want to take a closer look at Project Winter if you haven't already, which came out of early access for PC in May of last year. In Project Winter, each game is usually made up of 8 players, 6 of which are tasked with helping the group safely escape, while 2 are asked to do anything they can to stop the escape from happening. Now, to be honest, we recommend playing Project Winter with folks you already know. Experience in playing this with random match-made lobbies was, to be honest, somewhat of a suboptimal experience with constant, let's just call it griefing. In any case, with a group of friends, well, actually you can play this with as few as 5 others, Project Winter can be really special. The teamwork and cohesion required to not only escape, but to be successful in the betrayal side of the game can produce some really rather magical gameplay. We've been playing this with friends, family and even work colleagues, which again, to be honest, might not have been the smartest of moves, given how gosh darn devious we can sometimes all be. So yes, if you like Among Us, Project Winter should be right up your alley. Moving swiftly on, and at number 7, we have a second game in this rundown from 11-bit studios. Launched on PC in April of 2018, there have been several updates and DLCs since then, with it also having come to the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox. Rather than looking after a small collective as you did in the earlier This War Is Mine, in Frostpunk, you are responsible for the lives of a whole city in this harsh survival-cum-society city builder management game that's all set within an alternate reality UK that's weathering an ice age. The city grows outwards from what's called a central generator, all the while keeping to and meeting the physical and mental needs of your city dwellers. The game affords multiple different scenarios and storylines, usually requiring you, the player, to make some moral decision here and there, where some folks benefit and others, well, not so much. There's always plenty of tinkering to be done, and every decision you make has consequences. As perhaps could be expected given the situation your civilians find themselves in, there's always the undertow of rebellion and civil unrest. How victory or winning in each playthrough looks, well, from what we've experienced, it'll come down to your own moral compass. Up next, and at number 6, Among Trees is the only game in this list that's out in early access, with it dropping earlier in the year. Now we're thinking for some this might be a controversial choice, not least as it's only out in early access, but don't let that fool you. Within its stunningly attractive palette of pastels and subtle lighting and ever so delightful looking rabbits and other wildlife are some pretty harsh mechanics. You're needing to manage your hunger, health and energy levels, all the while setting up your own place in the forest. Once that's complete, you can add to it over time by adding such things as a greenhouse, a room to build things and additional cooking areas. If you let it, there's already a great game here that's also enjoyable for allowing you to get out and explore what's undoubtedly the best looking of the games in this survival rundown. Just watch out though for bears, and if you don't want to have them about and other such nasties, you can fire up a mode where all of the creatures that would eat you for lunch are removed from the game. That's a nice touch which changes the whole nature of the survival experience, and it also means you can just get out into the forest while also enjoying the views and changes in light as the day moves from morning into the evening. Up next, and at number 5, yes, Rust has become famous for a few reasons, although I'll leave you to do the Google on some of those, although it can offer a huge variety in some of its gameplay. Many players have flocked to Rust over the years, particularly for what you're able to do with the base building construction elements, where you're able to build things from the mundane up to the palatial. It's also quite rightly famous for how brutal and downright hardcore the overall game experience can be. Rust is one of those perfect games to describe, as us Brits do, as somewhat Marmite. You'll either love it or loathe it. Rust can be found on PC as well as the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. At number 4, we have No Man's Sky, a game we covered here on the channel at great length during the run-up to its launch. And while back then, towards the summer of 2016, it popped out with less fizz than expected, it has over time evolved, changed, and upgraded itself in every conceivable way, with its most recent update being for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S, where it makes use of the new hardware in delivering 4K resolution at 60 frames per second. The PlayStation 5 and new Xbox version also supports up to 32-player online co-op, although for me, at its heart, No Man's Sky is still all about the joy that can be found within the isolation of the single-player mode, particularly within the permadeath sub-mode where this game can really shine. This was a late addition to the rundown, with it edging out perhaps Raft or the Forest, although we think having once more played it on the new Xbox Series X, there's plenty of life and possibly more updates in this one still to come. Moving swiftly into the top 3, and at number 3 we have Don't Starve Together, which came out in April of 2016, with it having had numerous updates and DLCs these past 4 or so years. Now, this is a standalone multiplayer expansion of the original Don't Starve, so why did we go for the expansion rather than the original game? Well, first up, both are excellent, with the original offering some truly excellent wilderness survival gameplay. That said, long-term fans or viewers will very much know we like to focus on co-op games where we can, and that's the real reason with us joining forces, mostly with friends and relatives within private games where you explore an odd-looking world that's full of even stranger creatures, dangers and surprises. Like the original, Don't Starve Together allows players enough rope in crafting items and buildings to suit your own personal style. You can play Don't Starve Together on PC, the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Moving forward, and at number 2 we have The Long Dark, a survival game with horror elements that puts you in the role of Dr. Astrid Greenwood in what, unusually for this kind of genre, can be played via an open sandbox or serialized adventure within what's called the quiet apocalypse of the Winter Mute. What this one does so very well is by the way of its purity. You're all alone out there in the middle of a frozen wastes, with you having to take care of your most basic needs: food, rest, shelter, those kind of things, and in so doing, it strips away everything else. It's just ever so pure without the almost ubiquitous zombies and other such nasties to deal with. It's also a masterpiece in how it builds tension, mainly via the audio work with you and the wind to distant howls of wild animals. It's also quite simply enormous. There's hundreds upon hundreds of hours of possible playtime with this, and you can pick it up via Steam, the Nintendo Switch, the PlayStation 4, and the Xbox One. Wired magazine called it a troubling and yet beautiful gem, and to my eye, there's only one game out there within the survival genre, if given a choice, I'd rather play. At the number 1 position for survival games to play this late 2020, well, that would be Subnautica. Now, I'll agree this one has over the past couple of years come atop many of these sort of rundowns, although I have no reason not to follow suit. It's brilliant. The claustrophobic underwater nature and the need for oxygen are just so very haunting and up to a point, pointedly relatable. It's also just so very beautiful with the different creatures and underwater biomes. Aside from the constant need to replenish your food and oxygen supplies, it can also at times be genuinely terrifying, with it really able to bring the heart rate up and the stress hormones flowing freely. With a follow-up, Subnautica Below Zero, already out in early access, players will, there's no doubt, continue to dive in and out of this one for many years to come. So many thanks for watching, and if your favourite survival game isn't here in this rundown, feel free to let us know down in those comments. If you're new here and like what you see, please take a few moments not only to like the video but also subscribe to the channel with the notifications turned on. Either way, all the best, and we'll see you here again soon for more indie game videos.